So at the Organize with Bern event, they launched a brand new app called Bern. And it's a canvassing tool replacing the traditional clipboard and paper with a mobile app that you can take when you're knocking on doors and trying to convert, and educate people on voting for Bernie Sanders, right? Great tool, awesome. And it also, what it looks like is Bernie's creating his own voter database, which again is awesome. Because remember in 2016, the fiasco with the DNC and their NGP van database, and Bernie's campaign was accused of trying to grab data from Hillary's campaign database, and it got ugly, and the DNC shut Bernie out of his own information as punishment, and then he sued them, and it just got ugly, right? And so Bernie doesn't trust the DNC for many good reasons, which we're all not surprised. So he's creating his own database that the DNC has no access to, which is great. Like his coveted email list. Remember how the DNC wanted that too? And he was like, heck no. Which is another reason we love Bernie, because he's like, no to the DNC. So he's controlling his information, creating his own databases, separate from anybody else, that can't be used unless, he invites them in, which is great. But like clockwork, the anti-Bernies exploded. Okay, they went on this tangent, this ridiculous, overblown brouhaha over privacy. Okay, and that's the main reason I'm doing this video, is to talk about actually the bigger issue we should be talking about as citizens of the United States is around privacy and how much of our personal data is actually allowed to be out there, because the amount of public information that is out there about us, and also information that can be sold, like you can buy information about other people, or people can buy information about you, is quite frightening. I mean, I personally am surprised more citizens haven't taken to the streets and screamed and demanded more regulations and laws around privacy and personal data and what's allowed to be put out there. So that's why I'm doing this video. But just a quick thing before I go forward, because I had some people say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I spent 20 years of my corporate career in Silicon Valley, and I was the founder of a mobile app startup, and we built native iOS apps and web-based apps. So I'm familiar. I mean, it's been a few years, so I'm not up to date with the snazzy new stuff, but I'm familiar with databases and how apps are built. And Bern is a web-based app, which I'm assuming they did because it's much cheaper to do, and you can launch on all platforms, right? Any mobile device with internet can use, you can use the Bern app. So really smart out the gate. And this is the first version, right? I mean, as any app, there's going to be improvements and new versions. So if you find bugs or vulnerabilities, I mean, I saw on Twitter where some people were like, oh, I wrote some scripts and I was able to pull stuff. Okay, tell the campaign about it. I mean, this is how apps get better. I mean, it's standard things, okay? No app is perfect when it launches. That's how things improve, right? So even to these people being outraged, why don't you be productive? And instead of being angry, tell the campaign, here's the issues that I have. Here's how you can make the app better. I realize that's asking for a lot. But, those are reasonable, okay, let's be practical, right? And let's be helpful. One of my criticisms of the app is that it didn't have, at least even in the FAQ, was opt-out, version. So saying you're one of these people who's outraged and you don't want to be listed in the Bern app database, how do you opt out? Because that information should be available, which I did write to the campaign. I went to chat support and asked them. They didn't have a solid answer, which I was not surprised. And they said, yeah, we'll relay information back to the campaign, and I did that myself, okay? So that's something that they can improve, right? But again, back to the bigger issue of privacy. Everything in the Bern app, they're doing is standard practice, okay? So all the records and information. So here's a great example. go to this website, pipl.com. Okay, Pipl, pipl.com. And what it is a search engine that pulls all like data, personal data about you from the web. It's like a Google search of personal information, and you will be astounded as to what you find about yourself. I mean, it goes beyond just state, city and state and age. I mean, you might see like your emails, your phone number, addresses that you lived at. There's companies advertising that they're selling, you know, personal information like marriage and divorce records, like certain financials, collections, like all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's really frightening that this amount of data is out there, right? And that there are companies who are in the business of selling your data, and that also there are companies whose business is to help strip your information from the internet. Because it's like a spider web of stuff. There's so much stuff out there. It's frightening and ridiculous. And really, the bigger discussion we need to have is how do we tighten the rules, the regulations, and legislation around privacy and data? Like the Bern app is really low-level, minimal stuff. Again, go to pipl.com and see what's there, you know, out there just about you. And we really need to be having a bigger discussion about that. I mean, because in it itself, I mean, it's pretty amazing what is allowed to be there about you. So maybe in a way we should be thanking Bernie Sanders for bringing up the issue about privacy, because it is a much needed discussion, and there needs to be much tighter rules and laws around it, right? I mean, if you were worried about Facebook, like that's nothing compared to what's even bigger and what's out there.